Good morning, USA, and happy Independence Day. Perhaps someday we'll celebrate our liberation from the tyranny of oligarchs. We need to have a new revolution. As always, this show is unshaved, unbathed, unedited, and unscripted, fueled by coffee and cranberry trail mix. I'd like to welcome you to the third episode of the Bernie or Bust show. And instead of going back to what I didn't finish yesterday, I think I'll start with the idea of controlled opposition. I bumped into this idea on Reddit recently, and I looked it up and figured out what controlled opposition is. Here's an article that's critical of MSNBC, and it's a great article. I will put it in the comment section. In that article, they gave an excellent example from the past, from the time of King Louis XVI. But controlled opposition can also take on another form, one that doesn't over-radicalize the opposition movement, but rather sterilizes it by tempering the convictions of its members. If you can't obviously figure out what I'm talking about the Democratic Party. But that's not what we're talking about here. An example of this would be Gabriel Riquetti, Count of Maribor, who during the French Revolution established himself as a key revolutionary leader. Think maybe Cenk Uygur, however you say his name, while at the same time supporting a more moderate vision of constitutional monarchy. It was discovered after his death that he was actually being paid by King Louis XVI the entire time. I'll go ahead and make the point that the article makes. MSNBC is also controlled opposition of the latter variety. They had a big week this week as hosts of the first two Democratic presidential primary debates, but really, they've had a big few years now. Since the election of Donald Trump, they have carved out a niche for themselves as the go-to network for the resistance. And throughout the Trump era, their ratings have continued to grow up to and through the conclusion of the Mueller investigation. Since then, we've naturally seen a bit of a drop in the ratings, but it's still unquestionably true that Trump has been a boon to their ratings share. So they are the resistance, supposedly. But what a controlled opposition can do in this more passive way that they're mentioning, they can calm down the real people that might pick up pitchforks and come after the monarchs, such as King Louis here. They will stay calm. Those who might otherwise pick up pitchforks will stay calm because they think there's an opposition representing them. The book, Bernie or Bust, Pioneers of Electoral Revolt, lays this out really well. Let me show you a quote from the book, page 29 says, let me show you this a little bit better. A Democratic Party not complicit and holding the moral high ground to denounce Republican evil could have stopped the GOP's worst misdeeds long ago. And if you don't believe that, you need to look. We're going to look into the recent presidents from Jimmy Carter, maybe Nixon, forward, and we're going to show this kind of complicity. With Democrats so deeply to blame for Republican evil, no reform-minded voters should be duped by the sleazy blame-shifting con. I love the way those words go together. Sleazy blame-shifting con of voting for Democrats as the lesser evil. In fact, Democrats simply hide beneath the ground cover of Republican evil to perpetuate their own plutocrat donors' preferred brand. What voters should in fact feel guilty for is enabling that. So if you don't want to feel guilty for that, I would say that you should be aware that the Democrats will never actually do anything drastic to fix things. That case can be made in future episodes. I'll leave you with the idea of controlled opposition. We'll come back. The reason I wanted to have that in an early episode of this show is that we'll come back to it over and over. So, as always, unshaved, unbathed, unedited, unscripted. I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July.